Greetings and salutations. Welcome to Tanisha's Reading Corner podcast. I am your host, Tanisha. Tanisha's Reading podcast is dedicated to anyone who desires to make reading a daily habit as a form of self-care. To stay updated when a new podcast is uploaded, please subscribe to the channel. In addition, you can find me on Instagram at Tanisha's Reading Corner for many book recommendations and tips and tricks on how to keep reading a daily habit. Let's dive into today's episode. Happy Wednesday, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Tanisha's Reading Corner podcast. So let's dive right in. I'm starting a new series with the channel where I'm going to go over different genres of literature that make up the genre. Okay, that sounds silly, but it's simple. But yeah, I just feel like, sometimes we can get stuck in a rut as readers, reading the same type of books over and over, and sometimes it just needs to take a break from a specific genre that we've been used to and explore different ones. Some might not be for you. Maybe you tried it in the past, it didn't work, but you know what? With time, maturity grows, and maybe it might be time to try something new. So today's topic is all about romance. Romance. How we love you so much. Romance novels give us all the feels. They make our hearts flutter, they make our hearts stop, make our hearts skip a beat, all those greatness and whatnot. So, what is the definition of a romance novel? So, romance by definition, according to the Webster Dictionary, are places primary focus on relationships of a romantic or love type between two individuals. Typically have these novels, these novels, genre, here we go, there's the one I'm looking for, typically have a satisfying and optimistic ending. They have a meet, they have conflict, they fall in love, and then they typically have a happy ending. Not always, but typical. Some of the main key components of the genre are authors like Jane Austen, who wrote Pride and Prejudice and Sense and Sensibility, and those are some of the first ones that I read. And also just currently reading, I've been getting into Julia Quinn, who wrote the Bridgerton series. So romance novels for some can be a little bit cheesy and over the top, but it's popular for a reason. They allow readers to escape their everyday lives into characters that, fall head over heels in love. And love is always will be in trend and style and will always be an interesting topic to talk about. So here are some reasons why the romance novels are some of the most popular of all the genres. Typically it's very easy, simple to follow, an easy read, not too many difficult plot lines and twists and whatnot. But also, again, it has happy endings, which brings us to our next point. Characters typically tend to live happily ever after, like case in point. In one book of the series of the Bridgerton, the Duke and I, the Duke and Duchess do go off and live happily ever after they work out all their issues. And then the next reason why is that everyday life can be kind of boring, very typical. You're not getting flowers on an everyday basis. And so again, it creates that wonderful escapism where sometimes love is the part of where we all lack, and it's kind of nice to read about it. Then we move on to the next reason why romance is easy is that there's always very witty and very cute banter between the characters in romance novels that don't really exist in like other problems like horror and thriller and whatnot. It's really funny. They tend to poke at each other. A lot of bromances and whatnot that occur in romance novels that, you kind of see yourself and your friend group in these novels as well, too. So it's like everyday conversation. It makes it a little bit funnier. In previous episode, actually, season 1, episode 5, where we discussed The Ex-Hex by Aaron Sterling, that was very common all throughout the book. That quick little witty banter between the characters, especially the two romantic characters. Which brings up a lot of, chemistry between the characters as well, too. Which brings us to our next point. Why it's so much fun to read about romantic novels is that all those steamy love and sex scenes. Yes. Instead of, just watching it, reading about it as well, too, can be satisfying. Case in point, there are a couple of novels here that I have, like the 50 Shades of Grey books, and also Zane's Sex Chronicles as well, too. Now, going back to the 50 Shades of Greys, which was written by E.L. James. That was one of the first books that I read that kind of fit into that erotica subgroup of the romance novels as well, and also the same-sex chronicles. So the chronicles is not just featuring one couple like with the 50 Shades of Grey. The same-sex couples follows multiple couples in different scenarios and whatnot as well too. A lot of steamy stuff there. So if you feel little chemistry there, go check those books out if you haven't read them. Now, again, I'm going back to my previous points. For some people, romance might be a little over the top and overdone, but there are some major life lessons that you can learn from reading romance novels. Hear me out. Even if you don't really like the genre as a whole, there are bound to be some things that they can absolutely teach you about yourself. Some of the major mistakes in love that are made by the characters, we can oftentimes look at our own selves and realize, what, maybe I need to communicate more with my partner or with people around me, or maybe I need to, express myself differently so that people can hear me. Case in point, with the novel Bride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, a very quick summary of it, if you haven't read it, is that for me, the reason why the two main characters always had such conflict with each other and why towards the end they finally were able to get together was that, it was her prejudice and his pride, was her prejudice being Elizabeth Bennet, who was the main character, and his pride, which is Mr. Darcy, which is reason why they couldn't be together. But once they let those flaws go, they were finally able to just love each other. Yeah, so again, reading always, as we've read in previous episodes, encourages empathy and sympathy. And, it's one of my favorite genres. I've said this before, I'm a hopeless romantic. I love love. And another major reason, excuse me, I'm blubbering today, why this is one of my favorite is that a majority of the books and the literature that's written in this genre are written majority by women. There are many reasons why, this particular genre tends to draw more female authors to it. It's written by women for women, so we're more able to gravitate towards it and be able to recognize more deeply the things that we feel as well too. Oftentimes, not to say that men can't, but it's a lot more difficult for them. Actually, most authors will tell you that the female characters are oftentimes the easier ones to write for because they have more in depth, there's more place to go through there, whereas the men give them more difficulty. Actually, J.K. Rowling said that. It was always Rowling said that, and when she writes her novel, especially the Harry Potter series, it was always the male characters that gave her the more pain, whereas the female characters, it was always easier to write for. So, little tidbit there. On that note, we're going to take a quick little commercial break, do it quickly as always, and then we'll be right back, so stay tuned. Ladies of the podcast, did you know that your period is not supposed to hurt? Periods are normal, but the pain should not be. Inflammation occurs naturally on your cycle, but painful periods indicate that the inflammation is higher than it should be. That's where Cited supplements come in. Cited PMS supplements comes packed with 9 superpowered plant extracts and minerals. Cited will not only help to lower your pain levels, but to also support your body naturally from cycle to cycle. For more information, go to their website at Cited, SEMAINE health.com. Also follow them on Instagram at Cited Health. Also, listeners of the podcast, when you find a supplement that you like to use, your promo code Tanisha's Reading Corner to get 20% off your first bottle. Again, the promo code Tanisha's Reading Corner to get 20% off your first bottle. Now, let's get back into the episode. I always like to give both the positive and the negative, so we've gone over the positive sides of the romance genre. Now, some common critiques of the genre that is very trite, cheesy, over-the-topness, without love and whatnot, but which, understandable. It does kind of follow a typical, story arc. The characters meet, sometimes they don't like each other, then they do turn out to like each other, there's a conflict, but then it always resolves, and then there's a happily ever after, which is not all fit into that, as always, with all things in life, but typical in the romance novel genre. Not genre, but genre. Watch that. But it's more than that. I'm sorry. This is probably my favorite genre. That's why I'm so protective of it. But it's getting a different perspective on love, on courtship, on friendship, even on family relationships, on communication, on sex. And that's probably why, you know, why I love it so much, because each book, each novel, each different way of reading it, it brings about a different entity of love, which love is such an interesting topic to read about anyway. And, you know, oftentimes it gives the reader words that they're oftentimes too uncomfortable or just don't know how to express. And it gives you that vocabulary to express themselves, to be able to communicate with not just themselves for self-love, but also for the partner, with family, about, you know, how they're feeling about certain things. Sometimes they don't know how to resolve conflict, and maybe reading about a character who's going through a similar situation, they're better able to then take what they just read, internalize it, and then be able to express how they're really feeling towards their partner. You know, in a world that's so very cynical about love, I mean, turn on the news and it's just like badness all the time. It's kind of nice to just turn that off for a little bit and read about two people falling in love, which, I mean, in a world that's kind of so fallen, love is seems to be outdated, but love's a style that'll never go. Love is a outfit that will never go out of style. Little Sex in the City quote there for those of you who know. And also, you know, don't have to take my word for it. Studies, as we love here on the podcast, we love good studies. Studies have shown that being in love is not only good for your health, but reading about love is also good for your health as well. You know, as previously stated in other episodes, you know, the 7 health benefits of reading. Reading in its own helps to lower blood pressure, helps to calm the heart, so lower stress. But also, when reading romance novels, what our scientists have shown is that it helps to boost brain activity, especially during some of the more spicier parts of a novel. So, hey, you want a little extra brain power, pick up a romance novel. And also kickstarting to intimacy as well, too. As I previously just stated, you know, it's easier to communicate your wants and needs to someone when you know what you want and what you need and what turns you on and what turns you off. Also, it's a confidence booster, you know. Once you're able to kind of overcome your own flaws, and I mean, we all have flaws. That's just common with people. We're imperfect human beings. But once you're able to kind of recognize that in someone else and seeing how they overcome it, you're better able to overcome it and have more control of it a little bit. And thus be able to boost your confidence. And another health benefit of reading romance novels is that you're able to reevaluate your own relationships and readily more identify toxic relationships versus actual loving relationships. Again, when things that we read, we tend to be like, you know, for me as a reader, as an avid reader, I like to look at certain characters and really reevaluate my own relationships. Where are some of the relationships that are kind of toxic, that are kind of, you know, not serving me, or the relationships that are serving me that kind of maybe need more boost. So you're better able, again, take what you read, apply it to your daily life. And on the channel, as always, looking for things, reading, helping self-care. That's what we're here for. So why reading romance for me is probably my favorite genre. It's my go-to genre. Whenever I'm feeling bad, that's the first kind of book that I will reach for and go to. Even though my bookshelf is completely full, I find a new one, I will buy it immediately. It is my first go-to because, again, as I said, I love love and I love all the facets of love. I love reading about love. I love reading about what love can do for you and help to boost your energy, help to boost your confidence, help to boost just your overall life in general. Because, I mean, love, not to get all cheesy and try on you guys, but love is really everything. It's the reason why we should be doing the things that we're doing. We should be loving people more and just using the things that we have to value them. But I do feel like at times in this world, we tend to value things and use people as a way of getting them. So we need to switch that up. A current book that I am reading right now is called Love Radio. It's by Ebony Ladell. And it's about these two, seniors in high school. It's a young adult book, but it's just super cute. And you guys, I highly recommend you read this. And honestly, next week I will be doing a full book breakdown over this novel. But it's about these two high school characters who start to path of falling in love. I mean, she's the main character, not interested in love, but he really wants to. And he tells her, look, give me 3 dates and you'll fall in love with me. Ooh. So does it happen? Does it not? Stay tuned for next week's episode and I will give you a full book breakdown on it. So as always, I like to end my podcast with a good quote. And this one comes from our very own Jane Austen. And it reads, there are so many forms of love as there are moments in time. So I leave you that to ponder. And again, I thank you so much for joining me and listening to another episode of Tanisha's Reading Corner podcast. Please subscribe to the channel on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or wherever you listen to your podcast. Follow me on Instagram at Tanisha's Reading Corner. Also, go to the website www.tanishasreadingcorner.com. Stay up to date on when new episodes are posted. And as always, I wish you all a good week. I wish you all good wellness, good reading, and lots of love.